look. They've built a wall around the human race. Built a fence around the human race. So sad. So it's a really miserable day. I always cough. You can tell it's the first time I've filmed. On this particular day, yeah, it's a really miserable day. There's been like a storm, lots of rain, and it's just sort of vaguely miserable out here, to be honest. I've been cowering up at the National Gallery, actually checking out also the new submissions for what's going to go on this fourth plinth, which are vaguely interesting, and mostly all filled with some kind of experimental scientific propaganda. So watch that space. There's going to be something particularly weird there. Hasn't the world gone strange? Like, I don't know about you, but I used to enjoy watching InfoWars, maybe back in 2011 and 2012. By 2013, I decided I didn't really like InfoWars anymore. I didn't really like Alex Jones, who's turned into a bit of a douchebag, and I just couldn't handle watching it anymore. But obviously I still watch it occasionally just to sort of check out what they're saying. And to be honest, watching InfoWars nowadays is really, really quite challenging, because, you know, the one reason I used to like InfoWars, to be honest, was because they were so anti-government. But if you watch them now, they are disgustingly pro-government. It's really weird. They literally have almost become the propaganda arm for the Republican Party, which is a bit strange, and everybody is being divided. I mean, it's very difficult not to be affected by the mind control that is out there at the moment, and it's all about left or right, left or right. Are you left or are you right? And I've always had the opinion that the left-right paradigm is a false construction used as a manipulative technique to essentially just herd people into groups and put them into nice organised pens. And obviously a lot of the what they call the left have become highly radicalised to the point where they're even making me start to feel like I'm right-wing. But I'm not, either left or right. I don't believe that such things exist. The only thing that actually exists is just difference of opinion on just about every single matter. Now, I'm going to go up to have to go back up to Grosvenor Square today, because there's another Donald Trump protest, which is mostly, I think, to do with the trying to stop the state visit that's supposed to be happening in July. Personally, I think the state visit should definitely go ahead, because it might be visually entertaining, like a massive riot. But yeah, there's going to be lots of angry people up there marching to Downing Street today, calling Theresa May an appeaser. An appeaser. Neville Chamberlain appeased Hitler. Theresa May is appeasing Donald Trump. I'm coming to the end of the paper now. I'm literally like, probably like gonna die. No, I'm fine. Actually, I'm fine. So yeah, you may have noticed that there was a slight gap in the videos, as in I didn't make a video last week. Except I did make a video last week. In fact, I made 3. Well, I attempted to make 3, and they all ended up as abject failures, and so I didn't upload anything. But while I'm hiking up the hill through Mayfair towards Grosvenor Square to check out these radicals, I will share with you a little medley that I would like to call How Not to Make a Film. Actually snowing. Oh my God. cold today. I can hardly even speak. Move my face. You may know that a lot of the trading is nowadays done by computer system, just simply because humans. Oh God, it's so cold. So a lot of hardcore chanting going on over there, sort of hypnotic catechism, I think it's called, getting things like stuck in your head, whether it's actually your core belief or not. They're very, very loud. Now, this protest is actually very, very different to the one that happened the other day, or the other week. Say no to the Muslim ban. That's a bit awkward, isn't it, that probably a lot of them have been making their placards saying down with the ban, stop the Muslim ban, and then this morning the Muslim ban was stopped by a federal court judge. Of course, that's not going to stop them. So there's a couple of things I wanted to just point out. One of the main organisers of this event is the People's Assembly Against Austerity. What's austerity got to do with the state visit and Donald Trump and the so-called Muslim ban? Well, they would say, oh, it's all connected together. We have to have solidarity between all groups. We need to club together in unified resistance or whatever. But the real thing that's going on is that the People's Assembly for Austerity is an organisation with a serious amount of momentum and a serious... Oh, God, here comes the guy with the stupid music. When you go up there and you mingle with all of those people, what essentially you'll see is lots of pieces of paper that you can sign, and they're calling them petitions. Sign our petition for this, sign our petition for that. Essentially what's happening is that this is just a massive data collection exercise for email addresses and people's identity who they want to attribute to a movement that doesn't really have any kind of direct purpose but is essentially just vying for its own existence. The People's Assembly Against Austerity needs to exist as an entity because it's become a massive financial institution. There's also another couple of organisations who are involved in organising this today, which it doesn't really take too much research to find out that it's a little bit strange. The first being the Muslim Association of Britain. And the Muslim Association of Britain, it really doesn't take too much research to find out that they are intimately connected to what is called the Muslim Brotherhood. And of course in many nations the Muslim Brotherhood is designated as a terrorist organisation. So they are sort of aligned with radical Muslim movement. The other organisation that's organised this is called the Muslim Council of Britain, which again doesn't take too much research to find out that they're highly controversial. In fact, the Muslim Council of Britain are the ones who were caught out in a kind of covert operation known as Operation Trojan Horse, which was their idea that they would take over various educational establishments, schools and things like that in a kind of extreme form of Islamic education. You have to look that up if you don't know what I'm talking about. Operation Trojan Horse. So the Muslim Association of Britain, the Muslim Association, the Muslim Council of Britain, both weird organisations. And what's really weird, especially about the Muslim Council, is that they're actually funded, or they have been funded, to the tune of £300,000 a few years back by the Department of International Development. So if these guys are going to go and protest against the government at Downing Street, we have to remember that in that they are perpetuated, the momentum is created by the Department of International Development. It is essentially the government creating a protest movement against itself. Is that something to worry about? I don't know.
and destroy us all. Can we stand for that? No, we cannot stand for that. It is incumbent upon us to unite together here in Britain, across all countries, across all continents, against the threat that he presents to us, against our values, against our peoples, against our communities, and against life itself.
Well, it's quite some event they're holding here, to be honest. They basically almost shut down the whole of central London, which means we can walk about in the roads. Actually, it's quite nice. Yeah, it's actually really boring down there. I always do that. I always go to these protests and then sort of hang around trying to capture some sound bites, but it's all just really echoey and feedbacky and horrible to listen to, and it's all empty, repetitive rhetoric that we've heard a million times, all basically just to perpetuate their own organisations. And they say it's a people's movement, but really it's the third sector movement. That's what's going on here. They kept saying things like "Union now, Union now," and I don't know, like Union Now was a book written by a guy called Clarence Street, which is about democracies of the world uniting into a global government, which I'm sure you've probably heard from like many people on YouTube before. Is that like when these people shout things like "no nations, no borders, no deportation orders," it's like, yeah, it is catechism. It literally gets stuck in your head, like, and goes round and round in your head. No nations, no borders. Oh, doesn't that sound great? No nations and no borders. Well, that just basically just sounds like it's a mass movement for a global government, doesn't it? Which, if that's the Trump effect, to mobilise people into shouting at the gates of Downing Street that they really need a global government now, then I guess it goes to show that Donald Trump, love him or hate him, he's casting a very, very large shadow. He's a large presence which casts a large shadow, and it's that shadow that is needed for the continuance of the shadow government.